All right, learners. So, you ready to dive into this 0 to 1 thing with Peter Thiel? Looks like you've really been digging into his book.
Yeah, it's quite a ride.
Your notes are jam-packed. Building the future, disrupting industries, really resonating with this whole idea of creating something new, huh?
It's that classic Thiel, right? He wants you to think bigger than just building a company.
Oh, yeah, for
He
sure.
wants you to dominate, to kind of bend the future in your direction.
I like that.
And ambitious.
Yeah, and this whole 0 to 1 versus 1 to N thing seems to be a big deal for you. You've got that highlighted about 100 times in your notes. Am I right?
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, that's like the core code of his whole philosophy. He's saying real progress, the kind that really changes things, comes from creating something totally new, something from nothing, 0 to 1,
Right.
not just copying what everyone else is doing.
Not just making another online store.
Right. The 1 to N, just iterating on existing ideas, that's not enough for Thiel.
It's like inventing the internet versus just opening another online shop.
Exactly. One's a game changer, and the other one is just, well, keeping busy.
Yeah, for sure. So he actually uses China's economic rise as an example of this,
He
right?
does. And it's kind of a controversial point. I mean, China's growth has been incredible, but Thiel argues that a lot of it has come from copying existing technologies.
Okay.
So it's 1 to N progress, which is great, but it doesn't fundamentally change the game, you know?
Interesting. So how do we break out of this 1 to N trap? Thiel seems to have some, well, let's just say unconventional ideas about competition. Most people see competition as a good thing, right? A little healthy rivalry pushes everyone to be better.
Yeah, but that's where Thiel throws a curveball. He actually thinks that too much competition can be a bad thing, that it can stifle innovation.
Okay.
Think about it this way. If you're a company and you're just laser focused on beating your rivals, you're probably not going to invent the next iPhone. You're too busy just trying to survive.
You're just playing by someone else's rules in a way.
Exactly. So instead of creating something truly new, you're just trying to outmaneuver your competition in a market that's already playing by someone else's rules.
And that leads us to another one of Thiel's, shall we say, provocative ideas, which is that monopolies aren't always a bad thing.
Yeah, that one usually ruffles some feathers.
Yeah, because most people, when they hear the word monopoly, they think, oh, that's the enemy of innovation.
Right.
Right. But Thiel says, not so fast. He's not talking about monopolies that are built on shady tactics or government favors.
Sure.
He's talking about companies that become so good, so dominant, because they're doing something truly new that they just, well, they kind of transcend the whole idea of competition.
I see you've got something highlighted here about online pet food. What is that?
Oh, yeah, the online pet store wars, classic example. It illustrates what Thiel calls playing a zero-sum game. Imagine a pack of dogs all fighting over the same scrap of food.
Okay.
Even the winner is still just eating scraps.
Right.
And that's what happened with these online pet stores. They were so busy fighting each other, they missed the bigger picture.
They were so focused on competing that they forgot to innovate. Nobody was really winning because they were all just, well, scrapping over the same small piece of the pie.
It's like that saying, if you're not gaining, you're losing.
Exactly. And this all ties into another one of Thiel's big ideas, the idea of secrets.
Okay.
He says we've become blind to the secrets because we're so busy copying what works.
Interesting. So where does this power law thing fit in? You've got that highlighted a lot in your notes.
Right. So the power law is this idea that a small number of things are responsible for most of the results, right? And that applies to everything from, to venture capital returns to like which of your blog posts get the most traffic.
Okay.
It's the 80-20 rule on steroids.
So you're saying that in the business world, it's not about being slightly better than your competition.
Right.
It's about finding that one secret that unlocks like 10x or even 100x the results.
Yeah, exactly. It's about finding those hidden levers that can really shift the entire playing field. And Thiel argues that we've become so obsessed with incremental gains that we've forgotten how to hunt for those game-changing secrets.
Right. Okay, I see what you mean.
It's not about following the well-worn path. It's about forging your own.
Blazing a trail.
Exactly.
I like it. So if finding these secrets is the key to 0 to 1 success, how do you actually build a company around them? You've highlighted Thiel's experience building the early PayPal team, the PayPal Mafia.
Right, the PayPal Mafia.
What was it about that group that allowed them to do what they did?
Yeah, so this is where Thiel's thinking gets really interesting. He says it's not just about hiring, the smartest people you can find.
Well,
it's
yeah.
more about finding people who share your values, who are all aligned on the mission. He actually cautions against prioritizing talent over camaraderie.
Hmm. So you're saying that being a genius programmer isn't enough. You need to be passionate about revolutionizing online payments or whatever it is you're building.
Exactly. Thiel talks about the importance of building a cult-like culture.
Okay.
Not in a creepy way, but in the sense that everyone's deeply aligned, they believe in the mission, they're not just there for a paycheck.
Right, right.
They're a team, they're comrades.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many companies might be missing out on big ideas simply because they don't have that kind of environment.
Oh, absolutely. And what's fascinating is that the PayPal culture, it extended way beyond the company itself, right? You had the PayPal mafia going on to found companies like Tesla, SpaceX, LinkedIn. And it's like, wow,
Yeah.
that's not a coincidence. Thiel would say that shared experience, those values they forged together, it had a lasting impact.
Okay, so let's talk about something that I know a lot of people struggle with, and that's sales. I see you have a lot of notes on Thiel's emphasis on sales, which seems counterintuitive because Silicon Valley loves to talk about product market fit.
Right.
But sales sometimes feels like a dirty word.
Yeah, like if you build it, they will come.
Right, exactly.
But Thiel's like, no, no, no. Even the best product in the world won't sell itself. You got to have a strategy. And that strategy has to be tied to the specific type of sale.
He breaks it down into a bunch of different categories, right? Like complex sales, personal sales.
Right. Complex sales, personal sales, mass marketing. Yeah, he's got a whole system for thinking about this.
Could you refresh my memory on the differences between those three?
Oh, sure. So complex sales, think of like selling software to the government or something, right?
Yeah.
It's a long sales cycle, lots of stakeholders, high price tag.
Okay.
Personal sales, that's more about building relationships one-on-one. Think of like a small business signing up for new software, something like that. Whereas mass marketing, that's your classic consumer products, your apps, anything that's going out to a huge audience.
Right.
Different approaches for different situations.
Okay. Thinking about your own projects, learner, which one of those sales models do you think would be the most effective? It's something to keep in mind as you move forward. Now, let's talk about another area where Thiel kind of goes against the grain, and that's artificial intelligence, AI. There's a lot of fear out there about AI, taking over jobs.
Right, the robots are coming.
Right. But Thiel doesn't seem to share those fears.
Yeah, he's not afraid of the robots.
He's not worried about the robot uprising. So what's his take?
He sees it more as a collaboration, not a competition. Instead of man versus machine, it's man plus machine.
So we should be looking for ways to partner with our AI overlords.
Something like that. Thiel's point is that computers and humans, we're good at different things.
Okay.
We're creative, we're adaptable. Computers are great at processing massive amounts of data, doing those repetitive tasks. But the magic happens when you combine those strengths.
And he uses the story of PayPal's fraud detection system to illustrate this, right?
Oh, yeah, Igor, the legendary Igor. That's a perfect example of how human ingenuity plus AI can achieve incredible things. So PayPal was getting slammed with credit card fraud in the early days.
Yeah.
And they couldn't solve it with humans alone. It was just too much data.
Right.
But they also couldn't solve it with just algorithms because the algorithms weren't smart enough yet to spot the really tricky cases.
So it's like trying to, put out a wildfire with the bucket of water.
Exactly. So they're like, okay, what if we combine the best of both worlds? They created this hybrid system where humans, they trained the AI to recognize fraudulent patterns, and it became this incredibly effective tool.
Wow.
But the key is, it wasn't about humans versus machines. It was humans and machines working together.
Humans and machines working together.
Side by side.
I like it. Okay, so this idea of challenging assumptions, of not being afraid to go against the grain, it brings us to one of Thiel's cautionary tales.
Yeah.
The clean tech crash.
Right. Well,
What happened there?
it's a really good example of, well, how not to build a company.
Clean tech. At the time, it seemed like, the future, saving the planet, all that.
Right. Everybody was excited about it.
So to see so many of those companies struggle, even with all the hype, all the money pouring in, that's got to be a wake-up call, right?
It is. And it's a perfect example of what Thiel calls the indefinite fallacy. This idea that progress is just inevitable.
Okay.
Like the future will just magically arrive without us really having to, do anything.
Right.
And a lot of these clean tech companies, they fell into that trap.
They thought, we're the good guys. We've got this. It's going to be fine.
Exactly. But good intentions, they only get you so far, right?
But you got to have a viable business.
Exactly. And that's where those Thiel principles, they really come into play. Many of these companies, They lacked differentiation.
Okay.
They were essentially offering like slightly greener versions of what was already out there.
Instead of coming up with something truly new, something groundbreaking.
Exactly. They were so focused on the why, like clean energy is important, that they kind of forgot about the how.
How to actually build a profitable business.
The business side of things got lost.
Yeah.
They were so busy trying to be good that they forgot to be, well, great.
So instead of focusing on being the best, they focused on being seen as, like, morally superior.
In a way, yeah, and you can't really fault them for caring about the planet.
Right.
But, and this is another key point, the timing was often just way off.
Oh.
They were trying to sell really expensive, unproven technologies at a time when, frankly, most consumers just weren't ready to buy them.
The market wasn't there yet.
Exactly, and it's like Thiel says, the most contrarian thing you can do is not to oppose the crowd, but to think for yourself.
Okay.
And in the case of clean tech, a lot of these companies, they got swept up in the hype, they followed the crowd instead of, forging their own path.
Right, but then you have someone like Tesla, who seemed to really figure it out.
Right, Tesla's the exception.
They cracked the code.
Yeah, they did something different. They understood that it's not enough to just be different. You have to be dramatically better.
10x better.
Exactly. They created a product that was so good, so cool, that people were actually willing to pay a premium for it.
Yeah, and they really nailed the timing, too.
They did. They rode that wave perfectly, tapping into that growing demand for electric vehicles right at the right moment. But it was more than just the product and the timing, right?
Okay.
They built a brand.
Right.
A really powerful brand that stood for, innovation and luxury and sustainability all wrapped up into one.
Yeah, it's like they tapped into something aspirational.
Exactly. It wasn't just a car. It was a statement.
Right. Okay, so as we kind of wrap up our deep dive here, what are some key takeaways for our listener? The one who's been taking all these notes, really wrestling with these ideas, what does it all mean?
Well, I think Thiel's book, it's more than just a business book, right?
Right.
It's a call to action. He wants you to question everything.
Don't just accept the world as it is.
Exactly. Imagine what it could be. Whether you're, starting a company or just trying to figure out your next move, his principles, they can help you.
Make a bigger impact.
Exactly. Thiel would ask, what valuable company is nobody building? What's that secret that you've uncovered that nobody else sees? That's where the real opportunity lies.
That's how you go from 0 to 1.
Exactly.
Find that secret. Build that future. I like it. That's our deep dive on 0 to 1 with Peter Thiel.